Just realized that my audio is not getting picked up for something. Oh, it is. Just this is. Alright. Let's pick a small map. This should be good enough. You know. Oh, right. It says Farley 84. Fuck, I should have done that. That actually affects it a lot. Stream. Alrighty. Let's get quickly started. We're gonna get started ASAP. ASAP Rocky. Why do the colors look like this? The fuck? What, is because I said ASAP Rocky that you went like that? Have a little bit of humor, man. How dare you? Humor is the bane of existence, of my existence. Nothing is funny ever. Yeah, that's what they all say. That's literally what they all say. All right. Whoa, 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 whoa. I open up TikTok and I get 560 calories and 64 grams of protein. What the fuck? All right. Am I missing anybody? Are these all the initiators that exist in this game? Pretty sure these are all the initiators that exist in the game. KO, Sova, Sky, Fade. I don't think I'm missing anything else. Okay, cool. No. There are not enough agents in this game, bro. There's like 7 initiators in this game. What are you talking about? There's definitely enough. What's a small map that gives me like a lot of space to play with? Dark space. I might as well just open up a blackboard. Let's see. Not blackboard, blackboard. Like Blackboard online. Uh, wait, I guess. Okay, this is actually a lot better. Can I copy images though? Is the question. Let's see. Copy paste. All right, never mind. We're gonna use this then. You guys said Ascent? Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. Ascent does have a lot of space. All right, cool. Sky. KO. Gecko. Fade. And Reach. Is the Nuketown of Valorant. I've never played COD that much to know what Nuketown even means. Fortunately. I don't remember any of the map names though, to be fair, so that's my fault. All right, so what I want to talk about today is the Initiator class, right? This class is arguably one of the more harder roles in the game because it's not really a role that like you play for yourself. It's a role that like you have to play around the team. Not all the time, but you can, right? One thing I want to quickly show is when you actually look at, let's go to events, go to champions, let's go to rankings or stats in this case. If you actually look at most of the initiators when it comes to ratings, they have pretty high ratings all around, right? Most of the really good initiators like I from FPX, Leo from Fnatic, Cloud from Giants, and Mr. Fallen from Foot, right? They usually have high ratings. The other people that usually have high ratings are initiators, but duelists, right? Duelists and initiators are expected to be the highest ratings of the all. In fact, there was even a meme in Sakura Cup where if you actually look at the stats of who has the highest ratings, one of them was not Power Pixel, it was actually somebody else. I'm trying to find where she is because she's not here. But if you go to Scissors Rex, this one specifically, as you can see, Lace has a 1.52 rating, but she has 114 assists, 16 kills, and 27 deaths. So as an initiator, this is one of the ways that you could use to farm your rating, let alone be impactful. Because 114 assists in a BO3 is kind of crazy. There's no other. I don't even know how I would even replicate this, but this is just actually like funny and cool at the same time, right? So as an initiator, one of the things that your role is to, as I wrote, yeah, they play two maps exactly. One of the things that your role is to initiate, right? Sounds self-explanatory because it's in the name. This is the most beautiful writing I've ever had in my life because this is the initiator role. Right? The initiator's role, their job is to literally initiate attacks, right? Or even initiate plays, right? They're the reasons that certain actions occur. If a Jet wants to, let's say, fight a main off rip, let's say the Jet wants to come here and he wants to peek off of the orb contact, basically off orb tap, the Jet wants to peek. Well, the Jet can do it by dry, but it would be better if he has something else with him, like maybe a KO flash. So if you have like a KO flash right here, the KO can be like, okay, I can flash for you off the orb tap, and he would. He'll flash, Jet peeks, swings, gets a kill. That's the way you do a play. That's a simple play right there, and that's usually what the initiator's job is to do. Overall, a lot of people think that like, oh, as an initiator, I need to know all these util setups and all these lineups. For example, let's say I play top mid as Sova and I need to know the dart that goes like darts here on arches and it goes like 1, 2, 3, right? That's one of the darts that people know. And the truth is that you can know that. That's okay. It's probably a good thing to know it because it's an easy dart to play around with. It's a really good info dart overall. It gives you general info of this lane compared to if you didn't do that dart. Let's say you darted like right here instead, then it would only give you this lane, right? So it's you know, knowing certain lineups and certain agent tech in particular is good, right? As an initiator, your job is to essentially be very fluid with your util because you want to be capable of helping the team in any way possible, right? So as a Sova, right, let's play Sova on Ascent real quick. We're going to start off with Sova because Sova is usually the well-known initiator role. As a Sova, your job is to primarily find info on the map, right? Your job is to figure out where everyone's playing, figure out how the gaps are on the map, how you can get your team in certain areas, and how teams play around it, right? And that's where we start to realize that Initiator actually has like different types of playstyles. Because when you actually look at the utility of every Initiator, right, you have 2 recon agents essentially, right? I'm going to put all the util down here so it's a little bit easier for everyone to understand what each agent's role is.
Another battle. So be it.
Right? You have a recon agent. You have another recon agent, right? Haunt has 1 seize and has 2 dogs. And then you have a kind of recon agent, but not really, right? You take a look at this agent, Sky. Sky has 2 flashes, has 1 dog, and a heal. Breach has stun, like this, has 2 flashes, and an aftershock. KO has a knife, 2 flashes, and Molly. And Gecko has a flash, a buddy, or a Roomba, as people like to look at it, and a Molly. Right? So you look at all these abilities, right? And you see like how all of them are vastly different, right? Some of them actually have more general purposes. For example, Sova is primarily the info agent, right? He's going to be the one that like is going to find, like I said before, where everyone is on the map, what areas are open, what the gaps are, what places are not being used, yada yada yada, so on and so forth, right? However, when you take a look at Breach, Breach is different. Breach does not have any info capabilities whatsoever at a standard level, right? At a standard level, Breach does not have like recon. He doesn't have abilities that tell you that like it could be in this certain area, right? The only thing that Breach has is a stun, 2 flashes, and a aftershock, which essentially is a damage-based utility, or CC, right? Stun is a CC, flash is a LOS denial type ability, and aftershock is more of like a damage-based utility, right? So that's where we start to realize that like, okay, certain initiators have certain roles on the team, and when you look at any team that uses pro play terms, these are usually the pro play terms, right? You have the main initiator, the main initiator, and then you have the flex initiator. So this is an easy way to categorize like the initiator groups, all the classes and role silos behind them. The only difference is these aren't actual definitions of the roles at all, because the truth is that on some maps, your flex initiator can become the main initiator, and the same thing can happen with your main initiator becoming the flex initiator, vice versa, essentially. So for a map like Ascent, you take a look at Ascent, and it's like, okay, who's your main initiator? Well, it's probably Sova, right? Sova is most likely going to be your main initiator, this map. And your flex initiator would probably be KO, right? Because KO is generally the agent that has the less info capabilities, right? He doesn't have that much consistency in doing so. The only thing that he has is pretty much a knife, which you get within 45 seconds, which is pretty good, right? You think about it, like you get a general area of info, you get full info. It tells you how many people are there, or I should say precise info. Actually, no. I'm gonna call it true info. Precise info is something I'll call Sova, right? But you get true info. It just tells you who is there, and you get like an area that's clear, right? The best way to think of initiators is info initiators versus CC advantage initiators. Right. That's what I was gonna head towards to in the end, where I was like, I said in the beginning that like even though these are the general definitions of initiators, they don't actually represent initiators, right? They don't actually like tell you, because the truth is that, for example, Sky was considered one of the best flex initiators, right? Most of the time people put their flex players on Sky, but the truth is that on many maps, for example, like Bind, Haven, Lotus, Sky is your info initiator at this point. And generally speaking, info initiators get fallen into the main initiators standpoint, right? So the thing about initiators is that even though these are the general definitions, their actual role on the map changes every time. So the way you want to look at it is when you look at main initiator, you think about like this. Info, tempo, and direction. That's the way I would look at a main initiator. Can they give me one of these three things, right? Some agents can give you one, other agents can give you both, or sorry, two, and very few will give you all three, right? But when you look at flex, you think of something like this. Flex can give you all three of the above. However, they can also give you flashes. They can also give you CCs as well, which, like I said, it also follows the same guideline as the main initiator. And they can also give you, what's the last one? One sec. I think that's about it. I would say this is about it when it comes to flex initiator. It gives you all these things above, but it also has like the extra intricacy of having a flash and a CC, right? Which doesn't necessarily make it a full-on flex initiator. With info, general versus specific is probably the best way to look at it. KO is specific, drones are specific, Cypher Cam is specific, Dart is specific. It's not broken, but if it's broken, it's general. Raise Roomba is general and also is fade up. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that definition actually. I do like that definition. But the truth is that like, you know, every initiator has a every initiator has a different style in particular, right? So when you take a look at Sova on Ascent, right? Generally you think of Sova as like, you know, your info initiator slash main initiator, right? Because he is able to get the full-blown info. I don't even know the fucking dart anymore. He's able to get the full info on the map, right? He's able to do B mid darts, he's able to do B main darts, he's able to do A darts, A site darts, everything, right? He gives you the info that you need to play on the map. He helps guide the direction of where you want to go. And KO on the other hand kind of fills those gaps. He can either be the secondary info player, right? If I think about like something, let's think of like a pretty shitty default, right? This in my idea would be the pretty shitty default. You do dart here, and you do like maybe knife here, right? This is a shitty default. I'm just saying it for the sake of it. You get all A and B info, right? You can play both of them in that direction, because the thing about flex initiator is, as I said before, he's able to do all three of these above, which is info, tempo, and direction. And he also has things like Molly and CCs. Sorry, and flashes. But he doesn't have a general playstyle until you hop in the game, right? Thing about KO is that like, while he can be played as an info type of gatherer, he can also be played as a complete area of denial. If he wants to play right here towards B, and he's, let's say, okay, they pushed B main, and your KO is like, yo guys, they pushed B main. Well, instead of just being an info agent, right? He could just be like a fighter. He could be a brawler. He could be like, yo, I'm gonna flash this and I'm gonna kill this guy, or I'm gonna throw a molly and I'm gonna run away, right? there's a lot of ways you can play a Flex Initiator. It doesn't actually have a set play style. And the thing about Flex Initiator is that, like, it's in the name. It's literally in the fucking name. Flex, flexible. You look at this role and you think about just flexibility in particular, right? There's a reason why Sky is so one of the well-known Flex initiators, because she's commonly played by Flex players, right? On a team, when you look at building a team, you think of building like a duelist. You get a Flex player. You get an initiator. Smokes and Senti, basically. Right? In a perfect world, this is your ideal team. In a perfect world. Not every team has that situation, fortunately. Sometimes some people play multiple roles and others play nothing. So here's a better way to categorize the initiator role, right? Before I do that, I'm just gonna leave this up right here in case anybody wants to screenshot it. I'll give you like 5 seconds. And then I'm gonna like try to set apart each initiator on each map. I'm gonna do Ascent first because Ascent's a little bit easy. But yeah. All right. Let's do to this. So let's start off with this. As Zotek mentioned earlier, you have your info agents. You have your we'll keep Gecko at this for a second. There's only 7, right? Yeah, there's only 7. You have your Brawl agents, and then you have your Flex agents. This is the way that I like to personally view initiators as a role, because on many maps, each role changes every single time. Just always, right? As you can see, Sky, for example, since Sky quite literally dominated the meta for a very long time, about 2 years now. I think Sky's been meta at this point. She has a lot of capabilities of being all 3, right? When we consider old Sky had a lot of higher tendencies of being played as a brawl agent and less of a info agent. But fast forward to 2023, where the Sky nerfs essentially allowed her to flash for longer distances, but her pull-out weapon time is extremely bad. So many people, instead of playing her as a fighter or a brawler, they played her as an info. And I actually did a test in one of the coaching discords that I'm in, and I said, hey guys, I want to do a social experiment. I want you guys to go through Champions group stage, or even just Tokyo, anything, any international match, and I want you guys to find out how many times do Sky do pop flashes on that map. None of them did it at all. However, when I actually like watched it over myself, and I wanted to see like, okay, how often do Sky throw pop flashes? I'm gonna say about like, there's 12 rounds in the game, maybe like 2-3 times. 2-3 times in a round or in a half. It's not serious. It's not 12 rounds in a game. There's 12 rounds and a half. So popping a Sky a pop flash 2-3 times is about like 1/4 of a half. It's 1/4 of a half. Now, if you consider 24 rounds in a scrim, multiply that by 2, the 2 3 times, it's like 4 to 6 rounds out of 24. It's still like 1/4. Doesn't really change much. But the fact that like Sky in general is played more like an info agent is crucial, because that means that like certain things get changed around in the meta. One of the things that made Sky really good was her flashes and her dog, right? To quickly talk about this and give a deep dive about it. It used to be 2.5 second. Wait, no, I'm lying. It is not 2.5 seconds. Give me 1 second. Valorant patch 7.5. Okay, 7.04. Oh, I was right. Okay, yeah, it was 2.5 seconds. So before, she used to have a 2.5 seconds uh max, right? That means as a Sky, if I'm playing right here towards A main, the farthest that I can flash based on travel time is like right here, right? That's the old patch. New patch will let me flash as far as right here, right? New flash will make me only allow that much, right? This isn't drawn to actual scale. This is just like a rough estimate of like what that 2.5 seconds did, right? Not only that, but Skydog is pretty large, right? This thing lasts about, actually, I don't know how long Skydog lasts for. I never actually did the test myself, but we're gonna do it right now. Fuck it. We're gonna run down the timer and I'm gonna pop it at 35. That's about like 7 seconds. Maybe 6 seconds, I would say. 6 seconds, right? Cool. Now here's another thing too. How far does it travel? Let's start right here. I'm gonna start all the way spawn. I'm gonna ping where I am. Then I'm going to go towards the right side here and see how far that is. That's about 42 meters away. So the Skydog can literally travel 42 meters away. That's without jumping, by the way. That's without jumping. With jumping, though, that increases it. That literally goes as farther as... Yeah, I'm not doing jump right now. I'm just testing it like to see how far it goes. But the point is that, like, Skydog can go, like, pretty far distances. With 6 seconds and, like, that speed, like, that's pretty decent. Of course, you have to consider, like, you know, jumping, clearing corners, all that stuff, right? But, like, the max distance that you can go is 42 meters. Well, without jumping, right? But what are you trying to say? Go in a straight... How am I gonna... Okay, hold on. So 45 meters? That's even better. And then when you account for jumping, it goes farther. That's 50 meters. Okay, my bad. But the point still stands that like you can get pretty far distance with Sky overall. Let's move this. So you consider it, and it's like, okay, well, Sky can get me info. She can give me, she can tell me not specific info, but general info, right? She can tell me specific info with a dog that can literally travel 50 meters and has a viewing distance of about like, how far can she actually view? I'm pretty sure it's like, okay, let me, being right there. That's about like 20 meters around there. Around 20 meters, I'd say. She can view 20 meters away. We're talking about like 70 meters of info that like she could be theoretically getting, right? With one ability. With one ability, she can get around like 70 meters. That's including jump, traveling the 45 meters, and then actual like view cone distance, right? So she can get roughly like 70 meters of info, and at the same time, she can still technically do paw flashes, even though that's not why she's played. She also provides, flashes for fighting. Doesn't have to be just her. It could be with somebody else. And she has one of the most powerful abilities in the game, which is a heal, right? She can heal many teammates at the same time. And I don't know the statistics for the heal. There's actually like there's a full like deep dive on like what the heal is and how much it provides to the table. I'm not going to do that on stream today. If you want to go search that up, be my guest. But the point is that she's a very powerful agent purely because of how far she can get now. Now, here's the thing though. Her flash was reduced to 2 seconds now. So now that means that like her consistency still stays the same. She could still do flashes in one area and still get the same info that she would normally get. The only difference is that the actual distance itself changes drastically. She can't really do that many far away flashes. She has to be played closer now. And 0.5 seconds is a lot of time in this game. It's a lot of time in general. So her not being able to do that is really, really bad. Because now it forces her to be less of an info agent, right? She was already like a pretty powerful info agent. If we were to rank like meta, like old meta info, I would say the scale went like this. You had Sova at the top, Sky at the second, Fade at the worst. If you had the meta brawl would probably be KO at the top. Actually, no. If I'm considering like the way everyone in the world played meta, it would probably be Breach. KO is second, Sky is third, right? And if you had Flex, it would probably be Sky at the top, Gecko in the middle, KO in the third. Actually, no. KO in the middle, Gecko in the third, right? This would be like your general ranking, like how it would play out, right? Now that we have a 2 second difference, Sky does kind of become a little bit more stronger, just slightly, but not to a drastic degree. So even though this ranking does change, it's not as big as you think. You also have the brawl, which stays the exact same way. This is all fine. And then you have Flex, which, at the end of the day, it stays the same. Flex doesn't have a really defined role. The whole point of Flex is so that, like, you can actually play in multiple ways possible. So, any questions so far? Just really quick, want to get that out of the way. Does anybody have any quick questions about how this is formed? All right, cool. So now we're going to talk about maps, right? Each map has a different style for each agent, right? Even though these are your general brawl, and your general flex, and your general info, right? These are like your three ways to define an agent, or categorize an agent. When it comes to maps, that all changes, right? So when we take a look at a set, we think of either this, right? This is like your dynamic duo on this map. Sometimes you'll see like European teams, for example, that run this. This is one of the more common pairs in Europe, especially. Um, with the with the Sova changes, recently I've seen teams try this out, right? This is something that I've seen actually people try. And then the last but not least is, Solo Sky, right? This is probably your common Ascent comps, right? And the roles don't change. The roles don't change that much as you may think it is, right? You still have, I'm going to put info in blue. And brawl in green. All right, take care, Q extend. Right? You still have Sova in your info, you still have Fade in your info, and you still have Sky in your info, right? And the only thing that changes is your KO, your breaches here, right? Not much changes. Everything stays the exact same. Probably you could put Sky as a brawl here, but like I said before, the rankings don't change in how the playstyle is. You still have Sova at the top, Sky in the middle, and Fade in the middle, and Sky in the end. And you have KO in the top, Breach in the middle, Sky in the lowest. Right? Sky right now, her changes, like, only thing they really did was change the distance of how far her flashes can go, and that greatly decreases her capabilities of being a general info agent, right? Especially on this map too, because if I lock Sky real quick and I go towards CT, I can flash B main, but it'll take like a while to run out. It could potentially like run out, right? See, by the time I reach here in time, like it's already almost gone. Like there's a chance that it could just not go off if I have to like come. If I'm like right here, for example, if I'm right here, like it's not reaching there. Okay, well it can, but it's not it. Right, it can, but just barely. It's at the near edge, and there's potential to literally not get flashed by that because maybe it just hits the wall all of a sudden, right? And like that's human error, but human error is very common in this game no matter what. You have to always consider that as a possibility. So that's where she becomes a fallback as an info agent, right? Her chances of being a really good info agent just decreases. Is my stream lagging? I just noticed that it could be lagging. That's so weird. It hasn't lagged in the past few days. Anywho. So, without letting her be capable of doing more long-term flashes, she is slowly starting to fall back from being in the info train, and now she's starting to become a more of a flex slash brawler, right? This is where she will start to dominate more if the current changes, and other agents like KO stays the same, right? KO hasn't really been touched at all this patch. He still stays roughly around the same level of where he would play. And remember, like I said, he also has info capabilities, but it's not like really full-blown info, right? He just has a characteristic that makes him follow that guideline. Now, here's the thing. These are primary roles, right? We're going to address these as primary. There's no space. Maybe this. I'm going to quickly erase this top part. Right, the way you look at this is, this is really bad. Primary roles. Well, what about secondary roles? At the end of the day, every agent has a secondary role, as a playstyle. Every agent has different capabilities and what they have. So here's where we start to tackle more util specific stuff. So right here, we have a quick chart of all the utility from each agent. We're going to put secondary roles in red. I'm going to quickly erase all of this stuff. And let's see. We're going to stick with info. We're going to stick with brawl. And we're going to stick with flex, right? So let's start with the basic one. Sova, right? Sova is known to be a info agent because he has 2 info capability agents, and he also has a Hunter's Fury, which is kind of info, but it has a different playstyle at the same time. You see, because Hunter's Fury is also able to do damage, which is really important, and so does he have shocks, which also do damage. He is actually not only just an info agent, but he's also a flex agent. He falls into the category of being a flex because he doesn't have a fully designated style at the same time, and he also doesn't have necessarily capabilities of brawling, because shock darts isn't really something that like you brawl with, right? It's something that you throw because you have an advantage. Let's say if you're playing towards high ground, let's say you're playing right here, and you know that like, oh, someone's lane. Okay, well maybe let me just like shock dart lane, right? That's something that you can do from like right here. Obviously, this is not the greatest example. In a perfect world, you would probably never shock dart lane. I think a better example would be B main, where you know, like, hey guys, they're joining up B main, they're trying to scale, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm playing Sova, I'm playing Market, I can just shock dart this guy and do some damage, right? He doesn't have a designated playstyle as a secondary role, so he's a flexible agent overall. I'm going to quickly change to Sova. Actually, no, I'm just gonna get off the sky. Flash, it's loud. All right, next one we're gonna do is Fade, right? So Fade before has 2 dogs and a seize, right? You think about the seize, and the seize is more of like a suction ability, right? It doesn't actually have it doesn't really like have any damage output. It does reduce your HP, but you regain it as with time. And you also have 2 dogs, which are 1 info, right? You can literally gather info all around the map because of this. It can take to greater distance. It can clear certain areas, and that's pretty good. And another thing about her is that like before the patch, right? Because the current patch, they updated so that her pullout gun time is is slower compared to before. And because her weapon pullout time is slower, she is no longer capable of being fit as a brawler, right? Before, I used to consider Fade as like a semi-brawler because she had the capability of taking out her dog, throwing that bitch super fast, and immediately having her gun out in time just to kill them. That's a possibility, right? You consider like pop flashes. Like let's take B-Man right here, for example, right? Before, old Sky would have been able to throw a pop flash and immediately swing and kill. And the same thing with Fade. Old Fade could have thrown a dog, catched onto somebody, and just immediately swim and kill. That was a possibility. Hold on a sec. So that was a possibility. Current Fade can't do that no more. Current Fade has got nerfed. She can no longer throw her dogs really fast. Put this in Windows full screen.
Left. Thrifty.
If you look at the weapon pull out time, it's pretty slow. See? Let's go to B main real quick. One sec.
Bring them down.
Right? It's pretty slow.
Bring them down. Bring them down.
Super slow. So it's not as possible as it used to be. So now, since Fade Dogs got nerfed, her chances of being a decent brawler have decreased as a secondary role. And she kind of falls into a category of being a flex now, right? She has brawl-like capabilities still, but it's mostly because of her C's. Her C's allows to brawl / delay. It's a way to play off of something. It's something that you can use for many different reasons. But it follows roughly the same category at the end of the day, being a flex. So that's Scott, or sorry, that's Fate, right? Now let's go to KO. We mentioned before that KO is a primary brawl agent, but he also has an info ability, his knife. That's pretty fucking big. He can have a knife to gather info every 45 seconds. That just means he's an info agent at this point. His secondary role becomes an info agent. It still stays as a brawl. He still is a brawler, nonetheless. That's his primary characteristic, but his secondary characteristic is being an info agent. Not much to be said about that. Let's talk about Gecko. Gecko is probably one of the more confusing agents, because Gecko is brand new. This one.
30 seconds left. Thrifty.
I got the spike.
But here's the thing. Gecko doesn't have any actual specific info, right? If you throw his flash over here, you will essentially get info that, hey, there's one here, maybe two here, right? Because you'll hear the flash noises come out, but you have no idea who's there. You have a Roomba, which you can also throw to clear areas, but you have no idea who you're clearing either. If somebody was here, you have no idea who is actually there, unless they throw an ability to counteract it. Maybe they throw a raise nade as a reaction. Maybe they jet dash away, right? You just never know. And then you have Mosh, which is a damage ability. Doesn't really do much. It clears areas. That does have an info characteristic, but that's not necessarily info, right? When we look at info, we think about like quick and easy reactions. Like, what does it tell me? What do I know? What do I know from this piece of info? If it's fast, then it's info. If it's slow, then it's not necessarily info. It's still info, but it's not like full-blown info, right? Gecko as a secondary role actually follows everything. Because the thing about him is that, as Style Dynamics said it, right? Gecko is a mid-range agent. He's the first true mid-range because he doesn't have a specific playstyle. You can play him as an info, throw this and get info. You can also play him as a brawler. Hey guys, they're running up mid. All right, cool. Let's go fight him. You also have a Roomba. You can throw for info to re-clear areas. You can also throw this Roomba to throw them to fight. Hey guys, they're running up mid. All right, sick. Throw that, throw that. Kill them. The point being is that you have actual game plans to play off of. One sec. I don't really see something.
Run, little man. Dizzy's up. Get him, wingman. Dizzy's up top. Go get him, buddy. Up you go. Run, little man. Dizzy's up.
All right, so I'm not liking actually. I thought my stream was really buggy, but it's not. It's just like it's just not really good quality necessarily, but it's like it's fine. I had to check to make sure. All right, so as we were talking about, Gecko, his secondary role just does not exist. The whole point is that like he can actually pursue any of the specific styles. Like quite literally, he can play any of these styles. The only thing is his ranking is low on all those styles. He's the true flex player. Like he's the true flex agent. But he has no specific style whatsoever. That's the hard part about him. Right? Now we go on to Sky. We talked about Sky as she is capable of all three. Her secondary role, because she is technically all three, she doesn't have a secondary role. She just fits right here. That's about it. Her secondary role is literally just that she's a flex. What's up, Mohammed? Last but not least, we go to Breach, right? Breach is the #1 brawler by far. He's the #1 brawler. He has literally every piece of ability to brawl. He has stuns, he has flashes, he's a breach clear, right? He doesn't have any info. But the thing is that you don't always have to play breach in the example where you want to brawl with him. In fact, you can use it just to take early space. You can use it to clear areas, right? If I'm playing breach and I want to, let's say I want to clear, let's say right here, right? I can technically throw an ability like my breach clear, and I can clear this entire area, and now I would know that like, hey, nobody is playing here specifically, right? Breach allows me to do that. But that doesn't necessarily make Breach an info agent. So the question is, where does Breach actually fall as a secondary role? Not info. And he's already a brawler. He's actually just a flex at that point. The reason he's flex is because you can actually just use his abilities in any set style that you want. You can use it to brawl. You can use it to take space. You can use it to just completely say, fuck you, I want this area. Right? And that's the beauty of it. You don't actually have to play a specific style. At the end of the day, every agent in the Initiator class is actually capable of being flexible. That's the whole point of it. The primary roles stay the same. I should put it like this. Right? The primary roles stay the same, but the secondary roles is where it becomes complicated. As you can see. I'm also going to put Sky right here. Just for sake of consistency. Any questions so far? When you look at this, this is how you think about the Initiator class, right? This is probably a really good thumbnail image. I'm going to actually save this image. Okay. So now we talk about every agent on every map. On Ascent, we already covered. Let's talk about Bind. On Bind, Bow, Brawl, Flex. What's up, Crampy? So on Bind, I'm missing Gecko. Okay, cool. So on Bind, primarily, you have this as your info. Your secondary info can be this and Sova, sure, right? In the Brawl aspect, you have Sova here, or sorry, we have Breach here, KO here, and Gecko here. And Gecko kind of is a little bit of a brawler, right? Flex, you have Gecko, and partially Sky, right? Sky does follow that guideline. Sometimes some people would rank Fade as like a brawl instead on Bind, but generally speaking, this is how it works, right? This is how Bind plays out. What about Fracture? I and Brawl, Flex. On Fracture, your info actually becomes Sova, KO, and partially Breach, as ironic as that sounds, and Sky. Your Brawl is kinda not Sky, not really Sky. I don't even think you could really say Sky as a Brawl on that map at all. Probably Gecko. Obviously you have Breach as well, follows it, but I'm gonna put Breach and Flex because Breach is capable of both at the end of the day. Your KO kind of becomes a Flex too. Like he kind of follows that Brawl guideline, but he doesn't actually play like a Brawl on a map like Fracture at all. As dumb as that may sound. He actually does not play as a Brawl in any sense on that map. Well, not any sense, but the point being is that like he's not really the agent that's like fully brawling out. He's actually the one that's setting up people and being an info agent, right? He's like one of your highly impactful info gatherers, especially on that map. Sova kind of follows a Flex guideline too, where he's not like even though he's an info agent, on a map like Fracture, he becomes a little bit flexible too, because he can gather info in many areas, but he also can like hard deny. He can like not hard deny, but he could play like a play style where he's like kind of denying a chokehold by himself because he has shocks and he has the capability to like, if he really wants to, he can drone, like force them off. Like it's weird to say it, but it's not like a Brawl playstyle. It's like a playstyle where it's like he doesn't have a specific design, right? You could play him like info at the end of the day, but you don't have to play him in the sense of brawling. The same thing with Breach. Like you don't have to play him in the sense of brawling. Even on a map like Fracture, you would assume that like, okay, he plays a sense like Brawl. Not really. Brawl, he's not really like the one that's fighting. He's really the one that's setting up everybody, which is why I kind of put him in an info section where it's like he's gathering info in the sense of setting people up. Essentially, I'd put it like this. That's how I would put it. Now we take a look at Haven, right? Haven is the one map where the styles really do change depending on comp. Like really, really do change depending on comp. As much as they shouldn't be. Let's start with flex first. Breach is your flex. Gecko's your flex. Sky's your flex. KO's your flex. Any questions so far? Because we're not done yet. Now, info. Obviously, you have these three. Best info by far in this map. Right? And now Brawl. Yes. Surprisingly, yes. For once, Sova actually becomes a Brawl agent. I forgot to put Fade here. Sorry. Yes, Fade also becomes a Brawl. Even though like her gun weapon pullout time is different now. She is a Brawl agent on this map. Obviously. Of course. And I mean, yeah. This is roughly speaking how the map plays. I mean, you could put Sky there, sure, but I don't really think many people try to. Actually, no, that's lies. People definitely do try to fight with Sky. I'm not gonna say that. People definitely do. It's not ideal. Many people realize it's not as great, but it is a form of brawling. Every agent on Haven, every initiator on Haven is a brawler. It is incredible how this map has every agent become a brawler. As Sova, I can play here. I can late dart here. They break it. All right, bet. I can drone this and I can brawl it by myself because I'll have consistent info who's there. If I see one person there and I drone and I tag him, you best believe I'm peeking that shit. As a Sova, I can do that. With two abilities, I can do that. Obviously not Shocks. Shocks, you don't really use it as a brawl. But it's a drone, you can use that as a brawl. As a Fade. It's the Fade dogs. It's the C. Oops. As a Fade, you can throw the Fade dogs, right? You can throw the C's nade as a way to fight. That's a brawl. As KO, flashes, Molly. Not really knife, but you know, the point still stands. It's a brawler. As Breach, I mean, do I have to really say it? Like, look at this man. Yo, I'm stunning A fucking long. I'm stunning A long and I'm running up. You could do that. You'll literally do that. As Sky, I mean, it's self-explanatory. Sky, flashes, whatever, right? As Gecko, Dizzy, Wingman, Molly. I don't need to go on. The point is that all of these agents actually become brawl agents on this map. That's why Haven is one of the best maps in the game. Lotus. Lotus. Probably one of the more newer maps and also the most confusing when it comes to Initiator because nobody actually knows what the fuck they want to play on this map. And I don't blame them. It is definitely hard to figure out what to play on this map. Cool. Let's start off with this. Info is really easy. Sky on top. Fade second. KO third. Sova fourth. I'm gonna tell you right now, Sova is really ass in this map. I don't know why anybody would run Sova on this map. Your brawl. Breach. I'm gonna put Sky in flex because Sky is both. Gecko. KO. And I mean, you can brawl with Sky, but many teams don't really do it too much. It's not the greatest. Yo, how do I watch a Sonar stream and an Arvin stream at the same time? You don't. You say screw one. That being said, I'll join you guys for ranked later if you're down. KO also follows a flex guideline too, where actually he what is the stream? But KO follow. Oh well, screw it. KO follows a flex guideline because of the fact that like he can play as a info really well. There's a lot of great info knives that you can throw. And he can also like set up his teammates really well. He can set up himself really well. Overall, he's a really good agent on this map. People just don't like him because he has a lot of low EV, which I don't know the full definition of the E part. I always forget it, but I know what it stands for, and I know like what people use to measure EV, and I understand why they say no. I don't blame them. But I do think KO overall has a really good playstyle on this map. And we'll do split and then pearl last. Split is actually really easy. Really easy. Probably the one map where like all the roles make sense. Sova, flex. He has no playstyle. I don't need to go into detail. Just trust me, you cannot play him like info fully. You cannot play him like brawl fully. He's a flex. It is incredibly hard to get Sova value. Breach, brawl, sky, info, KO. Kind of like flex. Kind of fits the flex guideline. Gecko, flex. I'm missing someone. Fade. Fuck, I keep missing a fade. Fade. Info. Yeah, pretty much. This is the one map where all the rules kind of like just checks out. Everything makes sense. Right? Last but not least, Pearl. Gecko, flex. He's actually really good on this map. I actually really like Gecko on Pearl. Reach. It's weird, but he's a brawl. But he's not the best brawl. He's actually one of the worst brawls in this map. Fade, info, Sova, up top of the line info. By far. Sky, I mean, she's like the worst info on this map in my opinion. I don't like her in the slightest. And KO. KO is the best brawl on this map. By far. It's also one of the best flexes on this map too. But Gecko actually can assume all three roles in this map. Funnily enough. That's how good Gecko is in this map. He's actually able to assume every single role. Which is important. Like as Gecko is designed, he's designed to be played in multiple playstyles. So the fact that he can play all three playstyles on this map is really good. And with the addition of Breeze and Sunset Out, I won't be doing those maps because those maps are still fairly new. And all the changes and whatnot. So I don't want to really give anything fully decided on my end because I don't know. But overall, that's about it for the stream. That's really what the Initiator class is. I know I said I'd go over in ranked versus a competitive sense, but truthfully, that's gonna take like 3 hours, and I don't have 3 hours time, and I also think that like that's something for another day that I could talk about, like especially ranked. I could talk about ranked a lot when it comes to Initiator. But yeah, that'll be all. Make sure to check out my YouTube at the end of the day. Also, be sure to join my Discord. I have a community Discord now. I hope to see y'all there. I would love to talk to you guys whenever I can. And yeah, that'll be all for today. Thanks for coming.